Okay, it's 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to start. There may be some latecomers joining us, so I will try to watch for that and let them in. My name is Donna Costa. Not able to hear me. Well, I don't know why. And can you hear me now? Okay, good. Okay, we got a big group tonight. So I don't know if that's the topic or I think probably most of us are under some kind of a storm or storm warning right now. Anyway, my name is Donna Costa. I'm one of the OT instructors for Therapy Ed. Been doing this about 15 years. I've actually been an OT for 50 years, practicing initially in the field of mental health for about 35 years, and then teaching full-time for the last 20 years. So I've taught at Stony Brook University in New York. I've taught at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, at Touro University, Nevada, and the University of Nevada at Las Vegas, otherwise known as UNLV. So welcome. You're taking this class because I'm assuming you want to learn more about exam preparation. For those of you that haven't joined us before, the way we do this is we're going to start with going over this week's question. For those of you that don't know, Therapy Ed posts a question on social media on Thursday of each week, and then we post the answer on Sunday. And then on Tuesday, the instructor goes over that. So I'll do that first. If there's any questions that you have related to that question, by all means, ask it. And then we'll go into the presentation for tonight, which is how you can use mindfulness to help you prepare for the NBCOT exam. That'll take us to around 7:30. At which point I will open the floor to any questions that you may have. And I'll do my best to answer those. So when it comes time to ask a question, you can either unmute yourself and just speak it out loud, or you can type it in the chat box. But there are 55 of us, so it's a big group. So you might be better off just unmuting yourself and asking it. So let us look at the question of the week. All right, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Okay, so first I have to pull it up from Facebook. Oh, it's kind of small, isn't it? You still able to see a slide with the question?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
There is no question.
the question is here on the screen.
It shows like a hyperlink still.
Oh, so are you telling me the question didn't come up?
Yes, there's no question, just the hyperlink.
All right, let me try again. All right. You should be able to see it now, right?
No, it's only this screen enlarged, but same thing.
All right. I'm going to read it. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. What's bizarre? Technology is great when it works, right? Okay. So the question says, no,
Is there now?
oh, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Good. Thank you. Okay. So what do they say? Third time's a charm? An OT practitioner, so this could be OT or COTA, doesn't matter, provides services in a supported education program. Of those of you not familiar with that, that is a program for people with disabilities to continue their education. And it could be trade school, high school, college, community college, university. Usually there are support staff, and there's different models of supported education. Sometimes the staff go with the client to class. Sometimes they just help before or after the class. But sometimes the instructor knows that there is a person in the class with who's receiving extra help. Sometimes that's not known to the instructor, but it's a very successful model. So to go on, several participants report difficulties managing their coursework and falling asleep at night due to the inability to not think about incomplete course assignments and impending presentations. I wonder how many of you sometimes have trouble falling asleep and thinking about course assignments. It's pretty common. Which behavioral approach is best for the OT practitioner to recommend that program members use to address their expressed concerns? Now, remember, when item writers who write questions do this, they're told that all 4 choices or 3 choices should be plausible, which means they're all correct in some situation, but one of them is more correct than the others. So the first choice is modification of the sleep environment to block light and noise that can impact sleep quality. And that is a sleep intervention that's used to help prepare the sleeping environment. The next one says engagement in relaxation activities throughout the school day to decrease stress while in class. The next one, C, says advocacy for the reasonable accommodation of extended time for the completion of coursework. And then D says establishment of a pre-sleep routine that includes the composition of a to-do list and then letting it go. So remember that there's always a key word in the sentence. And I would say in this case that the key word in the last sentence of the question is behavioral. They're asking you to pick a behavioral approach. Okay? So that allows you to then eliminate some of the choices. So let me go back. I don't know if anybody wants to suggest what they think it is. Okay. Answer. Anybody have any ideas that would like to share? That didn't work. Sorry. Nobody wants to share? Okay. The correct answer of those four was D. What D talks about is using a
We
pre-sleep
can't hear
routine.
you.
What? Okay. Establishing a pre-sleep routine, making a to-do list, and then letting it go. Okay, that is a behavioral approach. Also including the to-do list. The other answer options are, again, possibilities, but they're not necessarily a behavioral approach. So I know in all of your OT and OTA programs, you learned about different frames of reference, theoretical models. They are definitely used on the exam within questions, and you need to pay attention to them. So as you study for the certification exam, you need to review those theoretical approaches and models. Does anybody have any questions regarding this question? Or no? No, it's all crystal clear to everyone? Okay. Well, if there's no questions, then we'll move on to the content for tonight, which is about mindfulness. Now, some of you may know what mindfulness is, others may not. So I'm going to start at the beginning with all of you. I'm going to minimize this screen. Okay. So can you see my slide? Can someone tell me whether you see it or not?
Yes, we see it.
Great. Okay, let me slideshow. Now, can you see one slide or two?
2.
Okay. Can you see one slide or two?
1 now.
Good. Okay. So, as I said, I'm Donna Costa. I have my doctorate in health sciences from the University of Indianapolis. I also have a master's degree in healthcare administration. And I'm a fellow of the American Occupational Therapy Association. So, I told you what my experience is. And for the last 25 years, I've been teaching, and I have been practicing mindfulness for more than 20 years. I took my first mindfulness retreat back in the year 2000, I believe. And then I pursued formal training in mindfulness and became certified in a number of interventions. So one intervention is called the CORU Mindfulness Program. And that's a program that was developed specifically for college students. It is a shorter form of mindfulness meditation. And so the amount of time you have to spend practicing daily is only 10 minutes as opposed to an hour. So I became a certified teacher and then began doing research studies with college students, not only OT students, but other health science students. The CORU program now is throughout the world. It may or may not be at the university where you took your OT program, but you can actually go to the CORU Mindfulness website and hold on a minute. Somebody is trying to get in. Okay. Okay. And basically the research studies that I did confirmed the same findings that the original researchers found, and I'll talk about those later. I also became certified in mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is the oldest of the mindfulness courses on the screen, otherwise known as MBSR. And this is an 8-week program, with each week being a 2-hour class, and then people participating in homework assignments for up to an hour each day. I did study this with many groups of people and was involved in a research study at the University of Utah with the Department of Nursing and Reproductive Medicine. And they were looking at the impact of mindfulness on urinary urge incontinence. This was a randomized controlled trial that was published. And what we found over the 2-year period is that mindfulness was as good as medications in controlling the episodes of leakage that women had. I pursued mindfulness-based cognitive therapy and became certified as a teacher in that. This is a particular intervention that was originally developed for people with depression. And so I was able to use this in my clinical practice, not only with people with just depression, but also people with depression and substance use. And then the last intervention I studied was mindfulness-based chronic pain management, which comes out of Canada. It's widely used in Canada, not so much in the US, and it's specific for people with chronic pain. It's a little bit longer of an intervention instead of the typical 8 weeks that MBSR and NBCOT are. This is an 11 or 12-week program. And it's offered most frequently via telehealth. So I've been involved in research studies with that. You can pick up any mental health journal, and it's not limited to mental health. And you're going to find articles on the efficacy of mindfulness. It's quite popular now as a research topic. So you might be thinking, well, I think I know what mindfulness is, but I'm not sure. So this is the definition that was created by the father of mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn, who's in Massachusetts. And he wrote a book called Full Catastrophe Living. and the definition was a part of that book. So mindfulness, in essence, means paying attention. Okay? If you think about it, we are often going from one thought to another thought to another thought in rapid succession. We don't pay attention. We're doing something and thinking about something else. We're listening to someone while we're eating or watching TV. It's called multitasking. So we engage in mindfulness in a particular way. There are many different practices of mindfulness, but they all have a specific protocol, if you will. The practice itself is very intentional. We do it on purpose. Now, just because we do it on purpose does not mean there's a goal attached to it. Most everything we do in life is goal-directed, right? You go to OT school for years to become an OT practitioner. That is the goal of it. Mindfulness is not goal-directed, okay? We engage in mindfulness just to be in the present moment, to pay attention, okay? There are a lot of very interesting byproducts or effects, but we don't engage in mindfulness to get those effects, okay? We engage in mindfulness in the present moment. And again, if you reflect on your thoughts, you're often either thinking about stuff that's already happened, so the argument you had with someone this morning, or you're thinking about what's going to happen in the future, maybe taking the NBCOT exam, maybe eating dinner, but we're rarely in the here and now, okay? And then the last piece of the mindfulness definition is that we do this without judgment. So we engage in mindfulness to the best of our ability. And in the beginning, and some of you might have tried mindfulness and have given up because you say, I can't do it. My mind is all over the place. You keep at it, all right? You don't beat yourself up and call yourself names because a thought came into your head. Our minds like to keep busy. That's quite normal. So we have to work on and practice this not judging, because again, it's part and parcel of what we do. Whoops. So why is this important? Because multitasking has become our way of living. We talk on our cell phones while we're commuting. We scan the news while we're returning our emails. All of this in an attempt to complete everything on our to-do list. And we lose connection with the present moment, with whoever's with us in the present moment. We stop being attentive to what we're doing or feeling. You don't remember what you had for breakfast because you weren't paying attention when you were having breakfast. So mindfulness is in essence the opposite of multitasking. The idea is to focus your attention on what is happening right now, what's right under your nose, and to be fully present in it. So this really is very compatible with what we try to do in occupational therapy, right? We engage people in occupations that have meaning to them. And when they get distracted, we bring them back to the task. So there's been a number of OTs that have actually written articles about mindfulness and occupational therapy. So why are you all here? Probably because you have test anxiety. And this is very prevalent these days. The slide says, based on this article in 2022, that 15 to 22% of undergraduate students experience test anxiety. Now, I'm not sure when that study was done. I will tell you that since COVID, test anxiety has become much more prevalent, as has anxiety and depression. So what is test anxiety? It's basically both a psychological and a physiological response that occurs during a test, and it increases our worrying. It also increases procrastination. Because we feel anxious, then we stop studying or preparing or thinking about the test. All right. We have heightened arousal. And then during the test itself, we have negative thoughts about our own performance. So we think things like, I'm not going to pass this exam. This is so hard. What was I thinking? I wanted to become an OT. So because test anxiety causes you to think these thoughts and be kind of all over the place with your thoughts, academic performance may suffer, which means your grades aren't as good as the amount of effort that you put in. We know that when students are worrying about their performance, that in and of itself is associated with lower academic performance. Okay, as opposed to just taking the test and thinking, I'm going to do the best I can, one question at a time. But constantly thinking about, I'm going to fail the test, can sometimes become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you think it, the more anxious you get. The more anxious you get, the more mistakes you make, the harder it is for you to recall information. Now, there's also physiological effects of test anxiety. So people sometimes have a speeded up heart rate, or they perspire. And that doesn't really result in lower academic performance, but it does place a toll on your well-being. So there's been a number of research studies that have looked at, could mindfulness cut into the level of anxiety that people experience on tests? So one of those studies said that many variables can affect how well a student actually performs on test days. When an exam is timed, as is the NBCOT exam, that presents additional challenges to each student, because you have to regulate attention to the test while you're ignoring distractions, like what time is it? How many questions do I have left? How am I doing? Have I spent enough time? We tell students to spend about 1 minute on every multiple choice and about 6 to 7 minutes on the new multi-select scenario sets. So to be effective on test taking, particularly with timed exams, you have to learn how to regulate yourself, and you've got to be aware of your situation. It's not just about intelligence. I always tell my students, you are all going to pass this exam. You got into OT school, you got through OT school, you passed field work, okay? But some of you may not pass the exam on the first time, okay? Some of you may end up taking it a few times, which we can do in occupational therapy practice. So what do we know about mindfulness and time management? So when you're taking a timed exam, you have to ignore distractions, noises in the room, looking at the clock, even your own internal signals like I'm hungry or thirsty. So when we talk about effective time management, that means you have to be aware of how much time is passing. Are you spending no more than a minute on each question? How much time is left? Because what happens to a lot of students is they get partially through the exam, they have 20 minutes left, and they count up how many questions are left and find out they've got 50 questions left. You really can't answer 50 questions in 20 minutes. So their timing was off. So again, you need to be in the present moment, mindful of how much time you're spending on each question. And then what's going on. And if you think you're becoming distracted, you're thinking about other stuff, then that means you need a break. And a break could be something as simple as just taking a few breaths and trying to calm yourself down. A number of studies have looked at mindfulness and attention. And when researchers have looked at exactly what happens in mindfulness, one of the core components is paying attention. Okay? The ability to focus just on whatever we are doing. So if it's, I'm taking in deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, am I aware of that breath going in and out? Am I able to follow it without thinking about other stuff? Okay? So that paying attention is critical with exam success. Now, some studies have shown that mindfulness does, in fact, improve attention. There's been no study that looks at, is it going to help specifically on the NBCOT exam? But we do know that mindfulness helps with attention. A lot of times you might be aware that your mind has wandered, okay? And then once we're aware of that, we bring our attention back. That's what we do when we engage in a mindfulness practice. Say I'm going to do a sitting meditation for 10 minutes, and I'm just going to be using my breath. I'm just following it in and out. But every once in a while, my thoughts are going to drift, and then I'm going to bring it back to the breath. So the ability to pay attention is key to learning effectively. So this doesn't apply just to the day of your exam, but also we recommend to students that you spend 4 to 6 weeks studying leading up to the exam. So if you start practicing mindfulness and you allot a minimum of 10 minutes a day and you do it religiously, you are going to see improvement in your ability to pay attention. Students are often told from the early primary years up through college, you're not paying attention, right? But nobody ever really teaches you how to pay attention. And you can't force yourself to concentrate. You can't say, thoughts, you have to leave my mind. Leave now. We almost adopt a very aggressive approach to studying. We say things like, I'm going to conquer it. I'm going to hit the books. I'm going to nail it. And all of that sounds like we're going to war. What we need to be doing is setting our goals, which starts with, I'm going to pass this exam on the first attempt. And I'm going to study for 2 to 4 hours a day for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And those goals are going to be first and foremost in my life. So a little bit about the Koru mindfulness program. And again, they define it, they being the folks that developed Koru, which were 2 psychiatrists at Duke University. They call it a skill of learning how to pay attention without judgment, to the present moment experience as a way to improve well-being. Okay? That's really a variation on the words that John Kabat-Zinn used, but it still has all the same elements. And the research study, well, that's at the next slide. I'm not going to jump ahead. So what they found in this study was that the mindfulness practices reduced stress, improved mood, and also improved academic performance. And they studied over 1,000 students, graduate and undergraduate. So this is an abbreviated mindfulness program, which means the meditations are shorter. You can go to the Koru website, which is korumindfulness.org. And there you'll see a tab on the toolbar that says resources. And when you click on that, you'll be taken to a page that has a number of downloadable meditations, all of them 10 minutes in length. Now, I think you're going to have to register as a student first, but it doesn't cost you anything. You're just registering with the website, and then you'll have access to the meditations. There also is an app that you can purchase for $6, and then you'll have it on your phone at all times, and you won't have to download it from the internet. So it's totally up to you. It's very hard in the beginning to guide yourself in a meditation, which is why it's more effective if you go to a class or a retreat. And you may have attended or still are part of a college or university that may offer this, or may offer meditation classes at the Student Health Center. Check out whether it's free and whether you can join, because it does help to have somebody guide you in the beginning. But if you're pressed for time and you don't have the money and it costs, then you can do it on your own. You need a little bit of discipline. You got to do it every day. So this research study that they did showed that stress symptoms were reduced. And they found that by using what's called the perceived stress scale. So everybody had to take that scale several times during the 6-week or 5-week course. I'm sorry, it's 4 weeks. They found that their psychological well-being was improved and sleep improved. So there were 3 main benefits. There was one additional one, which was gratitude. That improved over the 4 weeks. And part of that is students are asked to keep a log of the various practices they did throughout the week and any insights they had. And at the top of the sheet, every day, they're to list 2 things they're grateful for. Now, you might think that's a pretty minor activity to engage in, but what it does is create a mood of positivity. And so if you every day think about what you're grateful for in your life, it's going to cut down on the kind of chronic complaining that we often do. And so it's no surprise that gratitude improves. So the study showed that Koru promoted student health, helping students create a healthier way of relating to themselves at difficult times. Studying for this exam, and we know this exam is probably the hardest one you'll ever take in your life. Can you approach it with more kindness to yourself and less judgment? Okay, this does work. So what we're going to do now is just do a very brief practice. So if you would, find a comfortable sitting position, and you want both of your feet flat on the floor. All right, you don't want to be sitting cross-legged. You can close your eyes or just look downwards towards the floor. You don't have to close your eyes. The room doesn't have to be dark. And first, we're going to just let go of all the busyness of the day. And now we're going to start focusing on our breath, not changing it in any way, just watching it as it moves into the body on the in-breath and then exits the body on the out-breath. So you're just following each breath from the very beginning of the inhale all the way through to the very end of the exhale. And you just continue to breathe in this way, focusing on just one breath at a time. Now, if you become aware of thoughts entering your mind, maybe you're aware of an itch on your nose or hunger or whatever, you just acknowledge it as a passing mental event. Evidence that our minds like to be busy, and we bring our attention back to the breath. Just this one breath coming in, just this one breath going out. And just continue to breathe like this until you hear the sound of the bell, which will indicate the end of this practice. And stretching your arms out to the side, and then raising them up high above your head, reaching for the ceiling, and then slowly and mindfully lowering your arms back down until your hands are once again resting in your lap. And if your eyes are still closed, you can gently open them. So that, in its simplest form, is all there is to mindfulness. It truly is just paying attention. What you want to do is set aside 10 minutes a day for practice, every day. And there's a list there of the various meditations that you can download off the Koru website. Again, they're all only 10 minutes long. You're going to get out of mindfulness practice what you put into it. If you do it only the day before the exam, when you're really stressed out, you're not going to get so much out of it. If you start today, you're going to notice some changes in your everyday life. And you know that OT is founded on principles of habit training. So this is habit training using mindfulness. When you establish a mindfulness practice, you figure out what's the best time of day that you can commit to the practice, that you're least likely to be disturbed. And you will find over time that you are able to bring down your anxiety level. So I do have a couple of references here. This slideshow and recording will appear on the Therapy Ed website within the next couple days, and it'll stay up, I think, for 2 months. Don't quote me, but I think. it stays up for 2 months. So I'm now going to open the floor to you all for questions. You can ask questions about mindfulness, or you can ask questions about exam preparation. Whatever's on your mind. We have 15 minutes left. So this is the audience participation part.
I have like a general NBCOT like signing up for the test question. Can you answer that?
Of course.
Okay. So I know that we need like proof of our degree before we can sign up for the test. So
Right.
if we sign up, can we change that date or no?
What date?
So like if I wanted to sign up for a test date but I didn't have my degree in on time, can I even apply before I get my degree? Sorry.
There's one situation in which you can, but generally no.
Okay.
You submit your application to NBCOT and you do it around the same time that the registrar at your university sends your transcript. So you want to find out when that is. Once NBCOT gets those two documents, they review it. They say it takes about 3 days, and then they send you the ATT letter. That triggers your ability to register, to sign up to take the exam. So to pick your date. And you have to do that within 90 days of getting the letter.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
I wanted to find out, I know during one of the webinars that Therapy Ed had, they said with this new change to the NBCOT exam, they would be coming out with, I guess, like a 10th edition. So for those that have the 9th edition right now, I think they mentioned that they would be uploading some of those things online. Do you happen to know when they'll be doing that?
Yes. So the book itself, the content of the review and study guide, is virtually the same, 9th and 10th edition. What's different are the exams. Because the change that went into effect last week, January 2nd, is that NBCOT got rid of the clinical simulation questions and now is using the multi-select scenario sets. And so we have revised our exams. So, when you get the book, you get 3 exams with it. Those new exams have the new questions in it. And I was told last week by the office staff that they will be uploaded to all student accounts by mid-January, which is next week. So we apologize for the delay, but that's the only change in the book. So you don't have to go out and buy another book, nor do you need to ask for a new edition electronically. You just need the new questions. In the meantime, there is a sample or 2 sample multi-select scenario sets. That's a mouthful. On the NBCOT website. And you can take a look at those and practice them. NBCOT also has a practice pack of 10 of these questions. I don't know how much it is because it doesn't show the prices, but I'm assuming it's probably $35 or $40. But again, don't quote me. Right? But you don't have to do anything with Therapy Ed. We will automatically upload the new exams to every student who has registered with us, who bought the 10th edition.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Where would that be uploaded? The new book?
Not the new
Or the
book,
change-
just
or the
the new
change.
exams by mid-January. So today is the 9th, so by next week.
Yes, that I heard. Oh, do you know approximately where on the website or?
Well, it'll be in the learning portal. So when you bought the 10th edition, you received an access code. So you're going to sign in to the learning portal using your access code, and the new exams will be there. I believe they're going to try to send students an email, but keep in mind there are thousands of students who bought the 10th edition. So it's going to take a while to get an email out to everybody. So just check. But yes, to the person, Ben, who wrote, the content is the same for the 9th and 10th edition. The practice questions have been updated, and those are part of the 10th edition. Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am. I have a question. So
Okay.
I just came out of my rotation, so I'm a little late, and I apologize. I joined in last second, but I received an email from Therapy Ed. I don't ever remember registering, but I got 2 emails for this Zoom and the future Zooms. But do I need to, in order to access what you were referring to of the new content, do I need to go ahead and register, or since the fact that I already received these emails, I'm good? Or
Assuming you're good. I'm also assuming that you bought a book or you signed up for a course.
you know, I have no earthly idea, to be honest with you. I think our school does it for us. I could be mistaken, but
So there's a really big book, the Review and Study Guide.
they are
Okay.
providing us with those. I believe that might be it.
That's how they got your email.
Okay,
Yes.
so it must be a part of tuition then.
Yes.
All
Some
right.
schools do it that way. Other schools, that the students have to pay for it on their own. So
Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing that up.
you're welcome. Other questions?
Yes.
So I have a quick question. So you guys were talking about the 9th and 10th edition. I
Right.
got the 4th edition that was gifted to me by my program director last fall or last summer, I think. So is it completely
4th?
different than, yeah,
Well, wait, are you talking OT or OTA?
OTA?
Okay. So with OTA, we're about to release the 5th edition. There's no
Okay.
changes in the exam for the OTAs. So you don't have to, well, I take that back. There's one change, which is you're not going to Prometrics, you're going to Pearson View. But that's the only change. So you don't have to worry about a new book or new exams.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So you said that for the 10th edition, we're able to access the ebook. I might be wrong, but I was in a previous our office hour session with, I believe, Rita Fleming Castaldi, and she mentioned how for the 10th edition, we can email Michelle Emery for access to the 10th edition ebook. I don't know if that's still like possible to do, or
Well, what we're trying to do is you don't need the 10th edition of the book because there's no difference between the 9th and 10th. All right. Other than we took the exams out of the book and put them all in the online learning portal. So don't worry about getting an ebook for the 10th edition. You just need the new exams so that you can practice these multi-select scenario sets.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if we have the 9th edition, do we have access to the new exams or would we have to purchase those?
You don't have to purchase them, but if you bought the 9th edition, then you're in our database and the exam has been completed It's just a process of uploading it into our online learning portal. That will happen automatically. You don't have to do anything to make that happen.
Okay,
And that should be completed by mid-January, which is next week.
okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Okay, another question for you. So I know earlier on my classmates and I, we attended a seminar for the board review, and we went over like healthy study practices and how to formulate a study plan and all of that. That was a while ago. And I am in the beginning stages of studying for the exam, and I'm just wondering, do you have like a quick, easy like formula on how to develop that study plan? Because I don't remember everything that we talked about.
So did you take the therapy ed course?
Yes, it was like for 8 hours. There was like an hour break or something like that. And I did take a few notes, but unfortunately, like there are some things that I wish I would have taken notes on that I didn't. And I'm just wondering if like, because that's like the biggest source of my anxiety right now is, do I just read the therapy ed book like from beginning to end, or do I like formulate some sort of plan? Like how do I do this? Basically is what I'm
So
asking.
in both the review and study guide and the course manual, there are sections that tell you how to set up a study plan. So this is why we recommend that you start with reading both books from cover to cover. And it's going to take you more time to read the review and study guide because it's very dense reading. But that's going to tell you how to do it. Once you've completed reading the books, then we suggest that you take your first practice test. And that's going to give you feedback, a lot of feedback on how you did. Whatever areas you were weak in are the topics that go to the top of your study list. And then you study them until the next week when you take the second practice test.
Okay.
So this
So reading
process,
okay.
it
So
starts
reading
with
the
reading
book
both
from
books.
cover to cover is
Yes.
it's good just to do it that way, just to study for your exam. Like I don't have to write anything out.
Right.
Okay.
Now the review and study guide, the first half is the content. So that's what you're reading. The second half of the book are the rationales for the exam questions. Okay. And so you're going to read those after you take the practice test.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Good. We got time
Thank you.
for one more question.
Could you give some examples of mindfulness, like in the pediatric setting, in the older adult setting?
You're talking about using it with clients and patients?
Yes.
So one thing I recommend is that you don't do that until you've had some training. I always say to my patients, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I've never done myself. Okay. So, you've got to be credible to your clients. You can't ask them to do a mindfulness activity if you've never tried it, because it'll show. So there's a lot of literature out there on clinical applications of mindfulness from preschool children up through older adults. And they're all very specific protocols. Some have specific training attached to them. And really, you're just going to do a Google search to find out more about it. But you want to start with actually taking a mindfulness course and learning it yourself before you start using it with patients and clients. Hunter, I see your question. This online office hours starts every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So you have to adjust it if you're not in the Eastern time zone.
Yes, thank you. I'm from Memphis and I just moved to Virginia for a rotation, so I'm
You're
still
still on Eastern time,
yeah, I know
aren't
it.
you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Still getting used to
I'm
it.
in North Carolina, so I'm not far.
Oh, nice, nice.
Cool. All right. I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight and participating. I hope you got out of the session what you hope to get. Remember, it will show up on our YouTube channel within the next couple of days. And tune in next Tuesday for the next topic. Have a good night, everybody.